Good afternoon, everybody. This is your first science fair video. So this is for week 11 and what your kiddo is going to be doing starting to begin science fair. So in class yesterday, we set up our lab journal. So everyone should have their composition notebook, make sure their name is on it somewhere so that we, at the front or lab journal. And we got pretty far into setting it up, but there's just a few things that I want to go over with you. So this was it's like a sticker, and I put it in all of the front covers of everyone's lab journals. Everyone is ready to go with that, and it's just our schedule and when things are due. And so you just want to make sure that the biggest piece of advice, having put 3 kids through science fair, is to follow the schedule and try to stay as close to possible as the schedule so that you don't get overwhelmed or get too far behind. So this week they should have come to class already on week 10 with their brainstorming ideas, and we did that. Everybody shared some ideas, so that's great. Everybody had something that they could share. And then we went through, so this week, and I do deviate just a little bit from the guide because I have found that students need a little bit more time on their background research. So I've combined these 2 things for this week instead of the research question being next week. So that's about the only major changes. I give you an extra week for background research, but everything else pretty much falls in line. So your students are going to be doing what is the research problem and then the research question this week, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's go back to setting up our lab journals. So on the very first page, it should have your student's name and address, and some of them didn't know their address, which is fine. So that may be something you just want to review with them or have them memorize or say back to you. But we wrote in our addresses here and a phone number. It could be if they have a phone, their phone number, or a parent phone number, and then challenge A and director, Miss Gunter. And this is really in case it gets lost or misplaced and somebody picks it up, they can get it back to the owner of the lab journal. All right, then on the back, there's nothing on that back sheet. And then we went straight to our table of contents. So you'll notice here that on the table of contents, we got to this part right here. So everyone should have gotten this into their journal. We did not have time to get this into our journal. So they need to go back and finish putting in this stuff right here and for this week. So then you see here page number. This will have to do with what page numbers it ends up being in the lab journal, and it's the very last thing that gets completed in the table of in the lab journal. It's like the very last week before the actual science fair that you'll go back and put in the page numbers that go here. We did start labeling our pages, and so you'll see that odd numbers will always be on the right hand side and even numbers will always be on the left hand side. So that's another thing they needed to do, was go through and add their page numbers. You can see here even number, and then the odd number is on the right hand side. So they'll just want to flip through their notebook and number their pages. So that's pretty much where we got set up. We have our research problem titled here, and I told them to go ahead and jot in some brainstorming ideas that they could do right there. And then this week they're working on their research problem. So I'm going to come back to this in just a second, but I just wanted to show you some things that are in your guide. So here, it's starting on page, I do believe, yeah. So starting on page 172 is, yeah, kind of the science fair stuff, and it talks about the steps of the research plan or paper, the scientific method, which we did kind of went over this in class. We played again. Kind of how everything works to getting to the science fair. We have some great definitions of the things that they're going to be doing that you're going to hear, like research question and problem, the hypothesis, control, and things like that. So it's a great resource. All right, here also gives you the directions for setting up. This is on page 176, your lab journal, and it just gives you all the guidelines and all the things like that. And so here you can see, this is that little chart where we got the table of contents from, and this is the part that they need to finish adding. The only thing here is you see science fair schedule. We didn't put that there because ours is just it's on the cover, so it's not necessary to have it on the table of contents. So that's what they need to finish. And then we're going to talk about this research plan, which they have an example for you. And I sent in a separate email, I sent you a Word document that has the headings already set up for you, but basically you're just doing this in a Word or Google Docs or whatever typing program that you have, and you'll give it a title and your student's name. And then you're going to use Roman numerals, and these are capitalized and bolded. And so you can't see that here, but these should be bolded. And so the first Roman numeral will be research problem, and the second Roman numeral will be research question. And those are the two things that they're going to be working on this week after they finish their table of contents. So you'll see here that, I'll show you an example. Okay. So research problem. So you want to remember too that everything should be dated. So in the opposite corner of the page number should be the date of when you have done this thing. So the research problem is really this paragraph, and I sent home in the email and they had a paper copy. The research problem is this paragraph about, it's going to start with an exordium, something that's going to catch their audience's attention, and it's going to go into this little problem they had or something that they wondered about. It can be made up. It can be contrived a little bit. It doesn't have to be this absolutely real thing. It can be, but also it can be made up. But what you really want to do is that you want to talk about this problem that you've encountered, and that this problem made you wonder or made you think. So this is really important that we have some type of, this made me think, or this made me wonder, or this made me question type of statement. And it's just a paragraph. It's nothing really deep or long. So that's what they're going to work on today, this week, is the research problem. And then from this problem, they need to come up with a question that they want answered. So this particular student was doing about, does the temperature of water affect a plant? So that's what she was wondering about, like, does the temperature matter? So she comes up with, how does the temperature of water affect the growth of plants? So you want to kind of think about in your question, is it something that I can measure? Does my question talk about something that I could measure? So she can measure the growth of plants. And those are the two things that you want to have done this week, as long with completing the table of contents. So research problem and research question. And make sure that when you're in your journal, you're heading everything at the top. So this is my research problem, and then this is my research question page. And then you'll just continue there. And this is what we call a working journal. So you don't have to make sections for, like, this is my background section, or this is my whatever procedure section. You're just going to use, kind of like we do with our brain, the next available space. And then when we go back to the table of contents, we'll just fill in whatever page numbers those happen to fall on. So you'll see here, as we keep going, we'll do our background research, and I just keep using it. The only other thing that I would like to say is make sure you're writing a blue or black ink pen. That's very important. And I would not suggest erasable pen, because if it gets hot in a hot car, it will disappear. So we don't want that to happen, all the hard work that they've done in there. So also keep in mind, I told the students yesterday that if they go back and add something to they've already put in here, like they wanted to add more to their procedures, or actually they wanted to add a little something else to their background research, anything that's added after the fact needs to be marked in a red pen and dated. Now, if they mess up, this is no need to, like, rip out things or scribble, but let's just say I mess up here, and this, I wrote this word wrong. You would just put one line through it and then write it correctly above it or to the side of it. So no need to, be furious or messy or rip pages out. So you can see here, like, one line, and then we just keep going. So this is what we're working on this week, working on research problem and research question. And let me know if you have any questions.